Bring in Senators Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, Rob Portman, Republican from Ohio. You guys are obviously knee-deep in the election. You're part of the NRSC. You, of course, number 2 in the leadership. Let me run through our polls very quickly in these battleground states. Let's start with South Dakota very quickly. Excuse me, we're going to start with Iowa. Bruce Braley at 46%, the Republican there at 49%. 3-point lead there for Joni Ernst. Colorado, another close race. Cory Gardner, Republican, 46. The Democrat, Mark Udall, 45%. Look at this one in Kansas. The Independents still holding a lead. A month ago, we showed a 10-point lead. Now it's down to 1. Greg Orman there. Pat Roberts sitting at 44. Some surprises in the South. Closer races in places going in different directions. Carolina. Kay Hagan in a dead heat with Republican challenger Tom Tillis at 43%. Many Democrats believe Hagan still holds the lead. And things are closing in Arkansas with our poll, giving Republican challenger Tom Cotton just a 2-point edge over Democrat incumbent Mark Pryor, 45-43. Some people thought maybe this race would be put away by now. Then there's South Dakota. We thought we'd check in on this one since there was some chatter that maybe the crazy 3-way race was making an unusual result. That's not the case. Republican Mike Rounds is still way out in front, double-digit lead over the Democrat there, Rick Weiland, and former Republican Senator Larry Pressler, who's running as an independent, gets 16%. Senator Schumer, you guys are the ones on the defensive here. We're 9 days out. How do you hold the Senate?
Well, I think we will hold the Senate. You know, I know all the pundits are saying Republicans will take the Senate. Democrats are going to prove the pundits wrong on Election Day when we keep the Senate. 3 reasons. First and foremost, economic issues predominate. Ebola's in the news, ISIS is in the news, but the average voter, every poll shows far and away, cares most about economic issues. They tend to be for Democrats when economic issues like minimum wage, like equal pay for women, like not sending jobs overseas predominate. Second, we have a much better ground game. You can add 2 to 3 points at minimum.
All of them, huh?
For each of those races, just about every one of those races. So if it's 44, 43, we're probably ahead. And third, as the race gets down to the final moments, the voters focus on the 2 candidates, not on a national referendum. When the 2 candidates are compared, almost inevitably we do better. So economic issues, better ground game, better candidates will put us over the top November.
Senator Portman, why is he wrong?
Well,
why do you believe he's wrong?
You know, it's not the pundits who are saying that Republicans are going to get the majority. It's the voters. And your polls show it. Also,
it's tight, though.
Well, it's tight, but the voter intensity is on our side. You were in Iowa, and you saw that with early voting in Iowa, Republicans are winning. That's never happened. All the polls show that, you know, this is going to be a good year for Republicans. It's a good environment for us. Luke talked earlier about the incompetence that some people feel about the Obama administration. I mean, that's catching up to him. And people are asked, you know, what do you think about the president in your poll today? And you know what they said? He gets less than 40% approval in all those states. And when the president goes on national TV and says, you know what, this is about me. These are my policies. All my policies are on the ballot. And when he further says, and by the way, all these candidates who are trying to distance themselves from me, they all vote with me, and they all want to vote with me. So it is a national election, and Republicans have great candidates. We've got the enthusiasm on our side. And look, people are looking for a change, Chuck. They don't want the status quo, and a change is changing the Senate.
All right, I'll let you both go long on that first question, but I want you to keep it tighter here when we go to these things. What is the difference? Why does 51 Democrats matter more than 51 Republicans? What really will matter in the next 2 years? And then the same question is going to be for you. What's the real difference between 51 Republicans?
It does matter.
2 words, Supreme Court.
This is all about
majority,
judges.
not all, but you asked one reason, Supreme Court. The money that's cascading into our system. If the Supreme Court continues to be the way it is and there's a vacancy and they buttress that, we'll be subject to these few people just dominating the elections for decades to come. The Supreme Court on voting rights makes a huge difference. The Supreme Court on women's issues makes a huge difference. Supreme Court.
Senator Portman, what's the real difference for the last 2 years of the Obama administration with 51 Republicans?
Getting stuff done. What your polling shows.
I mean, I just, you know, there's a lot of skepticism that anything's going to get done.
Absolutely. The only way things get done is we change the majority. If you continue to do what we're doing, we're going to have the dysfunction in Washington that we've got right now. Nothing's getting done. We aren't doing budgets. We aren't helping people get jobs. I just had a jobs fair in Ohio and ran into a lot of people who are working part-time, 2 or 3 jobs, been out of work for months. What they're saying to me is,
John Kasich claims
we need to change.
The economy's doing really well in Ohio.
It's doing better in Ohio than the nation right now, but it's facing the headwinds from Washington. So Washington needs to get its act together and start passing stuff. If you get a Republican majority, Chuck, It will get the president to the table, and we'll begin to solve some of these big problems. That's what people want to see.
All right, I want to
shows, by the way.
Majority,
the number one issue in your polling is the gridlock in Washington. If you want to change things, vote for the Republicans.
Created in large part by Republicans in the Senate and the House. They create gridlock, then blame the president for it.
We can't create gridlock. You guys are in charge.
But let me stop you there. You can block everything we do.
Hang on. Speaking of
block minimum wage.
Guys, Senator, speaking of who's in charge, I want to play you something here about how candidates feel about Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid. Take a listen.
If you are elected and if he is re-elected, will you support Mitch McConnell of Kentucky as the leader of Republicans in the U.S. Senate?
That was a yes or no? My answer is no, Jim.
To you, Senator Warner, is Harry Reid the best person to lead the Senate Democrats, yes or no?
Listen, I think we could perhaps do better in both parties moving forward.
I've got nearly a dozen Democrats, Senator Schumer, a dozen Democrats who are saying, you know what, I don't know, I'd like somebody else different than Harry Reid. Is Harry Reid bigger than the majority? Greg Orman says, of Kansas, says he will not be with the Democrats if Harry Reid is the Senate Majority Leader. What say you?
I say that Harry Reid will run for majority leader, and he will win with an overwhelming, probably very close to a majority vote.
Senator McConnell, I'm hearing the same thing from other Republicans. Look, he's not out of the woods. He can't put his race away. Yeah. But there are some, Greg Orman says he will not sit with the Republicans if Mitch McConnell's in charge. Is one man bigger than a potential majority for the Republicans?
No, but I think Mitch is going to win in Kentucky. By the way, you're the one that said that she had disqualified herself, her opponent, by saying that she wouldn't tell people whether she voted for President Obama or not. And so I think he's going to win in Kentucky.
I meant that voters might think that at the time. But to go back, you know, the changing.
I think Mitch is going to win. I think he'll be the leader.
But should he be the leader?
Yeah, I think he should. But here's the
two of them have shut down the Senate. You don't believe that?
No. Here's the important point. By changing the majority, having the House and Senate working together and working with the president, we can begin to solve problems. And the biggest problem right now is jobs in the economy.
Yeah.
And we need to give it a shot in the arm, and we can. Let's do tax reform. Let's actually do something on energy. Let's approve the Keystone XL pipeline, the biggest infrastructure project in America next year. These things could happen right away.
On the issues that matter most to American people on jobs, raising minimum wage, equal pay, stop sending jobs overseas, helping kids pay for college. The Republicans have said no on each of those. That's why we're going to win the election, and that's why if they win, there'll be total gridlock.
I'm going to have to leave it
here.
It's
the opposite. We want the jobs to be
I can tell you this, the voters here think it's all going to be gridlock no matter what. That's your real challenge there. Senator Schumer, Senator Portman, thank you both. Coming up is